Garuda Indonesia is an airline with quite a mixed reputation. Some say it's the best way to get to Bali, some try to avoid it. Today, I take a look at what it's like to fly on Garuda Indonesia's A330-300 in the new configuration on the same flight from Melbourne to Bali that I took 5 years ago. So come along and let's see where Garuda has improved and whether they were better in 2019. Welcome to Melbourne International Airport, colloquially known as Tullamarine Airport. I'm here at Terminal 2, the International Terminal. It's around 5:50 AM, and this flight was originally scheduled to leave at 7 AM. But at about 3:30 in the morning on the day of the flight, I received an email from Garuda telling me that my flight had been changed to depart at 8:40 AM. This was followed by another email roughly half an hour later, saying that my flight would now depart at 9:55. Anyway, now that you have a bit of backstory, it's now time to go and check in. The check-in counters were located at Section P, information which I found on the departure board. The check-in staff were friendly. They actually weighed carry-on baggage, something I didn't expect to see. Maybe because it was a full flight in economy class. Just out of interest, I asked how much an upgrade would be, to business class that is, and it was about $800 or $900. I wouldn't say that's a bad price, but it's not that good either, so I passed. I was glad to see that the check-in was open, even though I was there quite early for the new departure time. Check-in was quiet, so it didn't take too long, but it wasn't super speedy despite having checked in online. Food and beverage vouchers for $20 each were given to us by the check-in staff. That's the way to handle a delay, in my opinion. Anyway, security was quick as per usual here. It took about 3 or 4 minutes or so. Airside here, there is plenty of duty-free shopping available, as well as some other shops, cafes and restaurants. On the day I took this flight, I believe it was Capital Airlines' inaugural flight to Hangzhou, and I was able to take a look at the plane before it departed. With a St. Ali iced latte in hand, which from memory I used a voucher for, which by the way needed to be used in one go, let's go and check out the Centurion Lounge here in Melbourne. With an economy class ticket, you don't normally get lounge access, and I don't have elite status with SkyTeam. So the only way I was able to access this lounge was thanks to someone in my family who I was travelling with, who has a credit card which gives access to this lounge. This isn't the lounge that Garuda Indonesia uses for its business class passengers, by the way. The American Express Centurion Lounge is located near the Qantas Business Lounge, which I've reviewed a few times before. I found the lounge to have a cool design. It's got lots of photos of Melbourne and that sort of thing, but unfortunately, the food selection was very average, especially without the pancake machine. The drink selection is also very average, and the coffee is actually quite bad. Thankfully, the chai was better. With time, the lounge got busier, and eventually, music started playing. There was a good amount of different seating. I like the more private kind of booths. Overall, it's a lounge which serves its purpose and is still worth visiting if you have time to kill. But as with a lot of lounges at this airport, there's no natural light and it's not great. By the way, the staff were pretty friendly. Also, I don't think this lounge has shower facilities. While I do some plane spotting, please allow me to tell you a bit about Garuda Indonesia, as it has quite an interesting history. Or if you're not interested, feel free to skip ahead. Garuda Indonesia was founded in 1949 as Garuda Indonesian Airways to become the flag carrier airline of the emerging independent country of Indonesia. The name Garuda is derived from a mythical bird. Garuda Indonesian Airways changed its name to Garuda Indonesia in 1985. In the early to mid-1990s, Garuda Indonesia had an extensive international route network, reaching destinations such as Los Angeles, Zurich, Darwin, Cairns and more. But in the mid to late 1990s and early 2000s, Garuda Indonesia experienced serious problems, such as poor management, a series of crashes, and tragedies that occurred around this time. This all contributed to Garuda Indonesia essentially being bankrupt around that time. During this difficult period, Garuda significantly cut back its international route network. In the early 2000s, Indonesia experienced a surge in demand for air travel, resulting in the formation of new airlines, particularly low-cost carriers. Garuda now had to compete for its passengers like never before. Due to unaddressed safety concerns with Indonesian airlines, including Garuda, in 2007 all Indonesian airlines were banned from European Union airspace. In 2009, Garuda Indonesia was one of the first airlines to be removed from the EU blacklist, which was a bit of a turning point for Garuda, with the airline announcing expansion plans which included a new logo, routes, uniforms and planes. In the years following, Garuda received multiple awards from Skytrax for its improvements and service quality. Unfortunately, Garuda started facing challenges again around 2018, with management issues once again playing a factor. In 2019, Garuda began to modernise its fleet with the arrival of the 737 MAX and A330neo, but deliveries of both of these aircraft were short-lived due to the global 737 MAX groundings and COVID-19 pandemic, which hit Garuda hard. Garuda Indonesia declared bankruptcy in 2022 as part of a debt restructuring plan. Garuda Indonesia ended up posting a net profit for the year of 2022, and although largely due to debt restructuring rather than passenger flights, it was the first profit announced since 2016. Garuda Indonesia currently has a fleet of 71 aircraft, including parked and freighter planes, and has more of a focus on domestic operations while maintaining a limited international route network. My ride to Bali will be Papa Kilo Golf Hotel Delta, a 2016-built Airbus A330-343 delivered new to Garuda Indonesia. This aircraft is equipped with 2 Rolls-Royce engines and has been painted in a 1969 retro livery since 2019. It's one of 21 total A330s currently in Garuda's fleet, with 4 A330-200s, 14 A330-300s and 3 A330-900neos.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This announcement is for passenger traveling on Garuda Airline flight GA719 to Bali, Denpasar. It has been necessary to take your departure gate. GA719 to Bali, Denpasar will now be departing from gate number 7.
The gate was changed a few times, likely due to the delay.
Bring the baby too.
There was 3 lanes for boarding: economy, sky priority and business. Special assistance passengers were let through at about 9:36, so I think 11 minutes past the new schedule. I'm not sure if when special assistance passengers are let through counts towards the official boarding time though. For everyone else, boarding started at about 9:47. The gate staff were friendly, but seemed frustrated for some reason. I think they had some troubles due to the delay, which is understandable. Welcome on board Garuda Indonesia's Airbus A330-300 in the newest configuration. Up front in business class, there's 24 Collins Aerospace Super Diamond seats in a 1-2-1 configuration. This is followed by 263 economy class seats, which look to me like Collins Aerospace Meridian seats, but I can't find any source to confirm that, so that's just my guess. I believe the 4 A330s delivered to Garuda in 2016 are the only ones to feature this cabin. Once I got on board, the crew was super friendly. They helped me to my seat. My first impressions were it's a relatively new cabin, but it's also not super modern. As it is in the older cabin, the choice of primary seat colour is interesting. My seat for the flight to Bali is 49k, a window seat in the economy cabin. Waiting for me on my seat was a blanket and a pillow. Now let's take a quick look at the seat features. First up, legroom is amazing. It felt like about 33 inches as it's supposed to be. My seat seems to be where the fuselage starts to curve, so a couple rows back, the aisles get a bit wider. But because the fuselage starts to curve, the legroom on the right side of my seat felt like it might have been a little bit more than 33 inches. Then there's a footrest, as well as a seat back pocket which contains a safety card, a sick bag and a magazine, and there was also some headphones waiting for me there. Oh, and there's also a shopping magazine. There's a bifoldable tray table which can also be adjusted back and forth. There's a remote for the personal entertainment screen, which is a decent size, but it's not huge. Beneath that, there's an audio port and a USB-A port, and the personal entertainment screen is adjustable. On the side of the seat, there's a coat hook. However, on the overhead panel, there are no individual adjustable air vents. There is recline, which we'll check out later, and a universal power socket. The seatback padding is pretty good, but not double, nor is it incredible.
Bersama Garuda Indonesia, dan pesan petugas pada pagi hari ini mengucapkan selamat datang pada penerbangan Garuda Indonesia. Penerbangan ke Denpasar Bali akan menempuh dalam waktu 5 jam dan 43 menit. Selamat menikmati penerbangan bersama Garuda Indonesia. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, with your pilot and command, Captain Australia Seattle, company with First Officer Maheza. On behalf of Garuda Indonesia and the crew member, we would like to welcome you aboard Garuda flight number GA719, established with Airbus A330-300 destination to the Gusti Ngurah International Airport in Denpasar, Bali. Flight up to Denpasar, Bali will take about 5 hours and 43 minutes. We appreciate you choosing Garuda Indonesia, member of Sky Team. We sincerely hope you enjoy the flight as well as a fine cabin service. Apologize for the delay of our departure time to Bali. Due to late arrival of this aircraft from the previous flight due to technical reasons.
Upon listening to the PA, it does sound like the delay was due to technical reasons, which I suspected, as when I was tracking the flight, it appeared as though the inbound plane rejected takeoff and had to go back to a stand before eventually taking off.
Welcome on board Garuda Indonesia according to civil aviation safety regulations. Before takeoff, we will show you the safety aspects of this aircraft. Please stow your cabin luggage in the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of you. Keep your seatbelt comfortably fastened while seated or asleep. Footrests are stowed and your window blind is raised. Garuda Indonesia.
Sekali lagi selamat datang dalam pesawat Airbus 330 seri 300 Garuda Indonesia, nomor penerbangan GA719 kerjasama Garuda Indonesia dengan China Airline 9665 dan KLM Royal Dutch 4053 dengan tujuan Ngurah Rai dan Pasar Bali. Terima kasih dan selamat menikmati penerbangan ini. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 4053 service to Ngurah Rai dan Pasar Bali. Thank you and enjoy the flight.
I thought the safety video was pretty good. It doesn't really mess around, but it's not boring either, as the setting is a bit Indonesian. Also, during boarding, the cabin was slightly warm, but once the engines were running, it got better. It's now time for pushback, about 3 hours and 20 minutes behind original schedule. If you enjoy the content I put out, and this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing, as it will help this video, me, and the channel out a lot, and would be very much appreciated. But of course, it's completely optional. It's now time for takeoff on runway 27. after takeoff, the climb slowed a bit to be notably slow. One of the passenger announcements made after takeoff was a little bit inaudible to me. Roughly 15 minutes after takeoff, I noticed the crew appear with trolleys of water. They handed out bottled water to those who wanted it, which is a thoughtful and a gesture that I appreciated. Now let's take a look at the in-flight entertainment. I found it to be pretty standard. I counted a total of 77 movies, but don't rely on my counting. There's also an okay selection of TV shows, there's a music and a kids section too, as well as a very standard in-flight map. The in-flight entertainment screen itself is pretty responsive, but not impressively so. I found the headphones to be basic, but they're practically always basic in economy. But as far as they go, they are actually one of the better ones I've had. The crew came around with what I think was special meals about 90 minutes after takeoff. I was a bit surprised they didn't start earlier, but maybe because there was a bit of turbulence. About 10 or 15 minutes after that, the proper meal service trolleys passed by me. The meal service seemed slightly uncoordinated, to me at least. I kept having to bring more stuff. On offer for drinks, there were select alcoholic beverages, soft drinks, guava juice, apple juice, and orange juice. For drinks, I got a guava juice, which was delicious and reminds me of Bali, as well as what I assume was water, and alongside my meal, there was a bread roll, a towelette, a cup of fruit, a cup of yogurt, some butter, and a cutlery packet, which included metal cutlery. For the meals, the options were chicken spicy rendang with coconut rice, but by the time I got served, only the sausage and eggs dish was available. The eggs were okay, as was the sausage, and the baked beans were also decent. The main meal was actually better than I expected. The bread roll was decent, and the cup fruit and yogurt was basically just as you'd expect. Someone in my family managed to get the spicy chicken rendang, and so I was able to give it a go, and it was super tasty. After the meal service, the crew came around with tea and coffee. I just got a black tea. I then went to check out one of the rear lavatories.
Ladies and gentlemen, on this flight we have a selection of duty-free products for sale.
It was a very average size. I'm not sure if the middle ones are bigger. It did have a few amenities though. At one point, the crew came around to offer duty-free shopping. Around 1 hour and 40 minutes before landing, the crew appeared to start a snack and drink service. They appeared to offer things like gin and tonic for free, but I didn't test it obviously. This drink service had tea and coffee too, but I just got another guava juice. A blueberry muffin was offered as a snack, which was pretty tasty, just a standard, good blueberry muffin. After both services, the crew came around to collect rubbish.
ICD sebelum memasuki Bandara Tujuan Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we remind you of the Customs Service and Supervision Officer policy for the applications to fill out electronic customs declaration, ICD, before entering the Airport of Indonesia. Fasilitas pelajar khusus keimigrasian untuk Bandara Udara Internasional I Gusti Ngurah rata-rata special. Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda. Ladies and gentlemen, Garuda Indonesia provide immigration specialist on business class and GML's platinum passenger.
Before landing, I had a quick look at Garuda's magazine, which looks to be pretty decent. There looked to be plenty of English articles. There was also some useful information on Garuda Indonesia itself. As we descend into Bali, please allow me to conclude today's flight with Garuda Indonesia. Whilst the delay was a bit annoying, At least I got to spend more time in the lounge, and delays happen. Considering it was a technical delay, I was notified and given a voucher, which I think there's plenty of airlines that wouldn't do that. It's totally okay. What I will note, however, is how often this flight arrives late. It appears to be somewhat rare for this flight to be as late as mine, but delays of up to a little over an hour seem to happen quite often, and I think one of the main reasons for this is the short block time of 6 hours and 5 minutes. The average flight time alone for this flight is just shy of 6 hours, so by the time you add taxi time, you can probably see how this flight is often late, especially considering flight time occasionally reaches almost 6.5 hours. Anyways, moving on. Boarding felt a bit uncoordinated, which was probably mostly due to the delay. The cabin crew during boarding were helpful, and throughout the flight was super friendly. The seat was overall fantastic, the legroom being the best part. The meal service wasn't great. I'd say it was simply average, although the drink selection was quite good, and the rendang was great. This service also felt a bit messy, as it took a little while to get started and to finish. It appeared to me as though there was only one trolley for each aisle in economy, so they kept having to bring new stock. The in-flight entertainment was very average. I do hope that they add some more newer movies at some point. I expected the second snack service for a premium airline such as Garuda, and I wasn't disappointed. Okay, so I noted that I hope Garuda adds Wi-Fi connectivity to its A330-300s, as I don't believe there was any on this flight. However, I forgot that Garuda actually does, or at least did in 2019, have Wi-Fi on some A330s, including the one I flew on in 2019. And I think for free, it's limited to either 15 minutes, or maybe it's unlimited, I'm not sure. It's possible that the Wi-Fi just wasn't working on this flight. Let's talk about the differences between this flight in 2024 versus in 2019. Probably one of the main differences would be that in 2019, Garuda Indonesia provided amenity kits on this flight, even in economy class, which wasn't offered on this flight. But getting an amenity kit is more of a bonus rather than a standard. Also in 2019, I was given a Wii Spa as an in-flight snack rather than a muffin. I remember Garuda's hospitality being amazing in 2019, and it was on this flight too. I think that Garuda's hospitality is up to the standard of even Singapore Airlines and Cathay Pacific, and legroom is generally better. However, the service isn't as good, nor is the in-flight entertainment. Overall, I had a great flight with Garuda Indonesia. There were some things that were great, but also some issues. I would fly with them again, especially on this route, as I believe the only somewhat comparable airline would be Qantas. But from Melbourne, Qantas only uses a 737. So I do think that Garuda Indonesia would be the best way to get to Bali from East Australia. Now enjoy the rest of the approach and landing on Gusti Ngurah International Airport, also known as Denpasar International Airport's runway 9.
Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, kita telah mendarat di Bandara Udara Internasional I Gusti Ngurah Mangunkurbado. Selamat datang di Bali. Untuk sementara waktu, silakan tetap duduk sampai pesawat ini telah berhenti dengan sempurna dan lampu tanda kenakan sabuk pengaman telah dipadamkan. Bapak Ibu dengan lanjutan penerbangan dimohon untuk menghubungi petugas darat kami di bagian pindah pesawat. Terima kasih atas pilihan Anda terbang bersama Garuda Indonesia, anggota dari SkyTeam. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just landed at the Gusti Ngurah International Airport, Ngurah, Bandung. Welcome to Bali. For the time being, please remain seated until we have reached our final parking position and the fasten seatbelt sign is off. And finally, on behalf of Garuda Indonesia, Captain Adriandi and the entire crew members would like to thank you for choosing Indonesia today, member of SkyTeam.
As we disembark, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching today's video. I posted updates of this trip on my Instagram at aviation763_, so feel free to check that out if you like. Last but most certainly not least, thank you to all of my incredible Patreons for helping to make these videos possible. Their support is truly so much appreciated, and I couldn't do what I do without them, so thank you so much to them. Once again, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in my next one, next Saturday at 5 PM Melbourne time.